Hello, this is Sheshachalam from Astroguide Mysore. Today, let us talk about the emphasis of the placement of the eighth lord, particularly with regard to the Deha Kashta Yoga. See, we have spoken about the Lagna lord going to the sixth house, Rogagrasta Jataka, which is also as good as Deha Kashta Yoga. The Lagna lord going to the eighth house, Deha Kashta Yoga. The Lagna lord getting associated with the eighth lord, or the Lagna lord malefically afflicted, and the eighth lord is aspecting, conjunct, or is placed along with the Lagna lord or the Lagna itself. So many combinations. It's a little confusing. So many people have asked me already online that you need to give us more clarity on this particular issue. Uh, Let us go in, it's a very detailed subject, but let us go into small ones first, small points one by one. Like for example, the emphasis of the placement of the eighth lord and what actually it is trying to tell us when it is placed in a certain house in the horoscope. So let us take a very arbitrary generalistic example. Let us take that the eighth lord is placed in the third house for any chart. Firstly, what we have to do is we need to start defining the Drakana position of the eighth lord. So, when it is in the third house, the first impression is that the eighth lord is sitting in the house of communication. The eighth lord is sitting in the house which represents the throat or the upper chest of the native. This is the part. So, whether it is going to afflict that part or that particular part where any one organ in which is placed in that particular part of the body, that we need to see by understanding the strength of the eighth lord. Whether the eighth lord is having a dual lordship, if I take an example of Taurus, the eighth lord for Taurus is Jupiter. It is also the 11th lord. So this is a classic example. Why? Because the 11th lord is the sixth from the sixth. So it also represents roga, that is disease. The eighth lord represents distress, pain, suffering, hurdles, difficulties in diagnosis, difficulties in able to endure the pain. Very tough. That is why we call it as sorrow, suffering, and a tough. That is why it is called Trik sthana, one of the tough houses, malefic houses, sixth, eighth, and the 12th houses. So in this case, for Taurus, Jupiter is exalted in the third house. So, obviously people will think that when Jupiter gets exalted in the third house, it has to give us great results. It will give good results, but in many areas in life. But with regard to Deha Kashta Yoga, Jupiter will give difficulties to the native with regard to that particular placement in the third house. It will damage that particular part of the body, and it will give some malfunctioning might happen. So let us take another example. This was a classic example of eighth lord being the 11th lord. Let us simply arbitrarily pick, let us say we will go for Aquarius ascendant, where a partial yoga karaka like Mercury, which is the fifth lord, which is a good lord for Aquarius, is also the eighth lord. So if that particular, Mercury is exalted in the eighth house, there are many theories which tell that the fifth lord sitting in the fourth from the fifth, it is exalted, excellent position for education. The eighth lord being placed in the eighth house itself is one of the best positions which is regarded as Viparita Raja Yoga. That is, the person will gain immense popularity, or he will gain very good status in life after a lot of hardship. Hardship is there because it is a Viparita Raja Yoga. You will have to go through a gruesome journey. Then only then you will be able to achieve a very good position in your life. But is this particular position, like for Aquarius, if Mercury is placed in the 8th house and it is the 8th lord and sitting in its own sign exalted, is this position going to give any difficulty of health to the native? Yes, it will do its job. However benefic a planet is, if it is sitting in the 8th house, and if it is the if a planet is the 8th lord and wherever it is posited in the chart, you need to see which organ on which it is posited on using the Drakana system. You need to understand from the Kala Purusha. It's a little complicated, but still, from the Kala Purusha, that is, if it was Aquarius ascendant and Mercury is placed in the sign of Virgo, from Kala Purusha Lagna, Kala Purusha is Aries. From there, it is in the 6th house. So, you need to see where it is posited. You need to see where it moves from that particular house in Navamsha, where it is posited. So you need to calculate the number of houses. So these mutual positions will give you a clarity as to what sort of a problem, whether the person will be suffering from skin diseases, whether the person will go through neurological difficulties, whether he will go through fear, anxiety. We need to see these things, whether he will be addicted to bad habits like drugs. So many problems people face, and it is so intricately complex that the 8th lord's position in the chart is extremely important. So that is why we get a different kind of a yoga when the 8th lord is either posited in the 6th house or the 12th house. The Harsha, Sarala, and Vimala yogas of the Viparita Raj yogas are having a very peculiar definition. I have done that only with regard to definition. I have not gone into the results because it's a basic level and there's too much of portion to cover. I'm trying my best to cover as number of videos as much as as fast as possible. So the Viparita Raja Yoga, when a Trik Sthanadipati, that is the lord of the 6th, 8th or the 12th, is placed either in the 6th, 8th or the 12th, it will diminish the negativity of the Trik lords, that is the 6th, 8th and the 12th lords, and it will increase the positivity of those lordships. So this concept, it's as good as telling that and something negative is happening, but it is less than the earlier position. So if it was minus 50, now if it is minus 30, we will calculate it as it is plus 20. It has taken, it is coming towards 0. So it is more positive. So quantitatively, if you are going to examine the strength of the position of the 8th lord in the chart and its associations with the other planets in the chart, you will be able to come to a conclusion as to what sort of a medical problem or what sort of a difficulty the person will go through. There is the other point. This is a very tough class to understand, but anyway, I'm trying to explain. So there is another point here when people are asking me that whether an intensity of suffering can be reduced, or whether we can understand how much the person would go through, depending on or the planet's position, the 8th lord's position, whether we will be able to understand that. So when we go through these calculations, we need to see the Ashtaka Varga numbers, Sarvashtaka Varga numbers from the ascendant, we have to we have to first analyze the ascendant Sarvashtaka Varga, 6th house Sarvashtaka Varga numbers, total I am telling, not the Binashtaka Varga, Sarvashtaka Varga, 8th house Sarvashtaka Varga, and the 12th house Sarvashtaka Varga. Take those numbers and we will be able to understand the comparativeness. We have to compare them. That is from the ascendant. If the ascendant is only 25 and you have the 6th house at 38, 8th house at 35, and the 12th house is 33. So that very clearly shows that the suffering, the illness, hospitalization are seen in the chart because the ascendant is very weak. If the ascendant is strong, it doesn't mean that this person will not have any diseases at all in life, but he will be able to, endure the pain. He will be able to easily control or go through, the recovery process without going through too much of sorrow and, pain. So this comparative, the table, tabulation can be done. When if you go into the advanced level, you need to see who are those planets, who are giving positive points to the 8th house, who are those planets which are giving negatives to the 8th house. You need to make the table and then understand that in this particular dasha, in this particular transit of a planet, in the Prasthara Ashtaka Varga, in that particular house, this person might go through difficulties in health, which are actually signified by the planet which is doing the transit. It's a little complicated, but anyway, I am trying to explain an intrigue point. So thank you very much for today's class. I will go ahead and discuss this in detail once again on the board with a live example. You will be able to understand this. Thank you very much.